There are various sampling methods that can be done in statistics, and each one has its own meaning and use. So we're going to go through a bunch now and see what each one actually means. So we're going to start off with a simple random sample, which is one of the most common that you will run into in statistics. And this is where n subjects, so some number of subjects, is selected in such a way that every possible sample of the same size n has the same chance of being chosen. Next is just a random sample, and this is where members of the population are selected in such a way that each individual member in the population has an equal chance of being selected. Next is a probability sample, and this involves selecting members from a population in such a way that each member of the population has a known chance of being selected. However, it doesn't necessarily mean they have the exact same chance. So we know the chance of being selected, but we have to keep in mind that it's not necessarily all the same chance. It's not all necessarily equal. Next is systematic sampling. And here we select some starting point, and then we select every kth element. So what does that mean? So let's say we start off with 100 people in a group. And then we're going to start with the 5th person in that group, and then every 7th person afterwards is who we select. So again, systematic sampling just means we find some specific starting point or some random starting point, and then we are going to select every kth person or kth element afterwards for our sampling method. Next is a convenience sampling, and it's just like the name sounds like, it's just done for convenience. So we're simply going to use the results that are very easy to get. So let's say we want to just get a group of people, sample them at the local college or the local store, something that's convenient and close to you. So that's all it is. You're not going outside and making it too difficult. It's just something convenient. Next is a stratified sampling. And here we subdivide the population into at least 2 different subgroups so that the subjects within the same subgroup share the same characteristics. And from there we just draw a sample from each subgroup. And finally we have cluster sampling, where we first divide the population area into sections, then randomly select some of those clusters. And then we choose all the members from those selected clusters. Now, we also have different things called observational studies and experiment designs. So let's look at what those are. So an observational study is where we observe and measure specific characteristics, but we do not attempt to modify the subjects being studied. So it's kind of like looking at a pole or something. We just observe it and we measure the specific characteristics, but we don't do anything else other than that. We don't introduce anything to it. Whereas an experiment is where we apply some treatment and then proceed to observe its effects on the subject. Take, for example, like a vaccine trial. We have those who are given the new vaccine, and we have a group of people who are given the placebo. So it's something where we can actually modify the subjects, and we just look and see what happens. Next is a cross-sectional study. This is where data are observed, measured, and collected at one point in time. Next, we have a retrospective study or a case control study. Here, data are collected from the past by going back in time, and how we do that is just, no more than just examining of records, some interviews, stuff like that. And last, we have a prospective study or a longitudinal cohort study. This is where data are collected in the future from groups sharing some common factors called cohorts. So something that's done in the future.